What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's Top 3. Today, we're going to be taking a look at 3 fun, hot releases to the playing card market. But before we jump into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And hit the bell.
Steve, I gotta say, these are some really interesting decks this week. Definitely some underrated ones that I think kind of snuck out to the community, but 3 that I really found have some fun aspects to them, whether it be the color, whether they be marked, or whether it just be kind of a fun new take on a completely old design.
Yeah, I'm excited. Nice creative deck.
Absolutely, man. And before we jump into it here, let's take a quick word from our sponsor. One of our favorite decks of 2020, the Wonder playing cards feature beautiful 3D back designs and an amazing tuck printed by Clove Street Press. Check out the latest version, Scarlet, live now on Kickstarter. So, I gotta say, man, this week coming in strong with another marked deck. I know last week we had some marked decks in the mix, but I'm really excited to see this one. It's actually another red marked deck, but completely marked in a different way. It's a really creative kind of aspect to it, and I like the theme around this deck as well.
Yeah, let's see what it is.
So, coming in at number 3 this week, we have the Mindset playing cards. This deck is printed by USPCC on their premium crush stock and is part of a 2,500 deck print run. It also retails for $15. Let's check this thing out, man.
Nice.
So as you can see, a really cool red tuck case here. Very minimal. It almost kind of reminds me of some of what we would see with like the Theory 11 red decks. The one quirk that comes up on this one is that the ad copy on the bottom of the deck is actually upside down, which makes you kind of flip it as you're reading through, which always gets me, and I feel like there's always a little bit of difficulty there. But you can see some fun little inspirational quote on the back of the deck. And then you also have this ad card immediately in the front, giving credit for a lot of quotes that are found throughout the deck. You also have a beautiful red kind of brain/circuitry style back design, which is actually fully marked as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, being USPCC crush stock, it absolutely handles like a dream. You have 2 matching jokers here, which show that red background and a little bit of a brain there. And of course, that upside down ace of spades, which is always my favorite. But one of the really interesting things about this deck is you can tell it's geared towards Magic. Almost all of the number cards are standard. Even the courts, for the most part, are standard, other than some recoloring there, where it looks like basically they pulled out the yellow and made the red and blue a lot more primary. But what you'll also notice is running down the side of each court card is an inspirational quote, which I thought was a really interesting take on this deck to kind of get you in that mindset, hence the name.
Mindset.
Yeah. So it's really cool to see, and that's why that credit ad card comes in the front as well, kind of crediting the authors of each of those inspirational quotes. Yeah,
I dig
you know,
that.
it's a fun kind of subtle touch to it. And it's not something that actually stands out so much that you would have to worry about like a spectator, questioning it while using this deck. The other thing about it that's really cool is, as you can see throughout, you have the exploded aces that color match the suit but show the back design in some capacity throughout each of them, which I really love, kind of bringing that whole circuitry vibe through it. And then, being a Magician's deck, you have a blank face card there as well. The other usual gaff card, which would be a double backer, was likely used by the ad card giving credit. And then on the back of that ad card actually is a QR code, which I didn't want to show, which actually shows the entire marking system and how to read this deck.
Nice.
So the one thing I will say on the marking system too is it is actually very simple. It is not a reader. It's marked for both suit and card. And honestly, riffling through it in 4 seconds, I had figured out what each of the positions were. Honestly, if you could basically pull a ace, a king, and one of each suit out of the deck, you could figure it out really easy. The nice thing about it is it's subtly done, so it doesn't jump out off the back design, but it is something to take into consideration. Is the deck is fully marked, so if you're really giving an opportunity for spectators to look at the back design and scrutinize it, they may see something wonky with it.
Yeah, I like the easy readers, ones that aren't necessarily readers, but are easy enough to read.
Yeah,
looking at it after a couple
I'd
seconds.
say if you get comfortable with this marking, which again, it's not hard to pick up, you could probably read this even from a couple feet, maybe not a couple feet, maybe like 2 feet away. So you don't need it like close up to as well, which I thought was really nicely done. Because sometimes with marked decks, they're so subtle, it's hard to find it unless you're like right up on it, and that defeats the whole purpose there.
Yeah, I'm blind, so I can't even use read a deck.
Yeah, you'd be great with this one then, and it really is simple and clean. But
Nice.
ready for number 2, man?
I'm ready. What is it?
So I'm excited for number 2 this week. This is actually part of a 4-deck, now I think 7-deck series by Chased Playing Cards. Actually a really cool deck. This is the Pathogen 52 deck. This deck is printed by Licorice Press. It is part of an unspecified print run, unspecified stock as well. For those of you who don't know, Licorice Press is a bit of a newcomer to the playing card market who's really trying to get into it and trying to find a good stock and good name for their brand. This deck retailed for about $17 on the Kickstarter, though we have not seen it hit the post-Kickstarter retail market yet.
Nice.
Check this thing out, man. So I have to say there's actually been some improvements made on this deck based on the first iteration, which was the, I can't even remember, the Uranium 52 and the Biohazard 52, which were a safety yellow and a red deck. Based on the campaign, I was actually expecting this to come in more as like a safety orange. Instead, it's kind of a pumpkin-y orange, which is interesting, but it's still a very cool back design to it, a very cool minimalist tuck. The other thing that you'll notice is that the seal on this one is actually a matte seal versus a kind of high gloss seal that they had the first time because there were some issues with that. As you can see too, out of the box, this thing does not fan very well, but from a lot of magicians I've talked to, with a little bit of break-in, this thing actually handles spectacular. Not being a magician or someone who really plays with a single deck of cards significantly, I would say that I'm probably not going to hit that break-in period, but out of the box, I always like to show a fresh fan there.
Right.
Yeah. So
I like these spaced out pips.
It's really interesting because they have a completely custom pip configuration to it. This deck is top to bottom custom. You have matching jokers where the color of the font is different. You have really cool customized court cards throughout, which carry the theme across. So you have this idea in this one of pathogen. So everyone is in a gas mask, has kind of a post-apocalyptic feel to it with weaponry, whether it be guns or axes or anything. And they also have really interesting kind of small indices and pips across this deck, which I really love.
Yeah, I dig the indices.
Yeah, and I like the fact too that really vibrant orange carries through to the front and throughout all of the courts as well. They really make sure that the color is a big part of this theme. And now this deck was actually part of a 2-deck release, so the other deck that came out with this was the Fallout 52, which was a black back design. Love that fan.
Man, that fan's so great.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, it breaks in over time, but initially out the box it is rough. But so the Fallout 52 that was also released with this was a black variation. Not of the same deck, though. It's a similar back design, but again, fully custom courts designed around the Fallout 52 theme, which is more so of like a post-nuclear bomb, post-apocalyptic world. So think snow and, you know, Ice Age kind of thing, which I thought was really cool. They've also since then released 2 other decks in the standard series and then another 2 vault editions. And I believe that brings it up to 4, 8, I think there's 9 decks total in this series thus far. So, and
cool.
I think that finishes
They
it
always
up.
come out with fun colors,
Yes.
too.
So the latest ones I want to say were a blue and maybe like a little bit of a flesh tone. I feel like those are what I remember. Yeah. And then the vault editions were a silver and a gold metallic, which was really interesting. And I can't recall on the Pathogen 52 and the Fallout 52 what the extra color was, but there was a 3rd deck release in that one too as a stretch goal.
I remember seeing a white.
It might have been. It might have been the white. I believe that's correct.
Yeah, I think it was white. Yeah.
Yeah. It's honestly there's so many colors in it, and they came out so quickly in succession that I kind of forgot what exactly they all were. But I have to say, other than the handling out of the box, I've loved every single one of them from a collector's point of view. And everyone I've talked to has said that you break them in and they handle like a dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a fun series.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And collector's deck doesn't need to handle the best either, you know?
No, it definitely does not. It is always nice to see when they do, but you know, they can't all be winners.
This is true.
So Steve, why don't you tell us what's coming in at the #1 spot this week?
Number 1 is the Broken Crowns by Phallus Design. It is printed by USPCC on classic stock. It is an unspecified print run and retails for $16.
Very nice, man. This is definitely a fun deck. I'm excited to check this thing out. Let's take a look.
I really dig this tuck box. It is a glossy tuck with the mandala back design on the back of the tuck.
Nice.
On the bottom, you see the ad copy, Mark and Jenny Fallis, which designed this whole deck, together, which I thought was really cool for a married couple to be doing that together.
Yeah, very cool project together.
Yeah, the back design, as you can see, it is a hand-drawn mandala, and it has the JM initials all around that center element, which is their initials. So it definitely has love instilled in this deck.
But I absolutely love the colorway they went with as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a subdued color, but it pops for some reason.
To me, it has a very like desert vibe to it.
Yeah, no, and the color of the paper definitely, gives you that desert essence.
Yeah.
Here's your two matching jokers, one black and one red, which kind of resembles a jack-in-the-box.
I love that little star on the top there too.
Yeah, the ace of spades here, nice big ace element, which we're both big fans of. Now, each pip in this deck is custom. Not one pip is the same. They're all individually designed, as well as the indices. The court cards are super creative. They definitely give me that vintage feel. And as you can see, when you look at the court card, they have a really cool dot pattern behind it in the background. You can't really see it that much in the video, but it really stands out and contrasts against the colors of the court card. Yeah, and the one thing about this deck that I love, but at the same time kind of scares me, is the court cards are kind of a little creepy.
They definitely have like a weird kind of doll-esque face.
Yeah, and here's your double backer, and to kind of go with that creepy vibe, you have this Queen of Spades, which is kind of a duplicate queen, but it's kind of demented. So I mean, it'll be really great for color change or any other trick.
A scary color change for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. It's definitely a fun deck. It has thin borders, which I'm a huge fan of. Yeah, but other than that, I'm really impressed with this deck. I loved it from the get-go, and they did a great job.
Absolutely agree, man. I think the one big thing to me that stands out on this is I think just for the way the tuck looks would have been so much cleaner in a matte paper versus the high gloss. But at the end of the day, like if that's the only thing I can pick at there, it's a beautiful deck. They really did a great job with it. I love the artwork. I love the hand-drawn vibe across all of it because it really was hand-drawn. The one really cool thing about it being inspired by things around their house, whether it be color or patterns or whatever. I thought that was really cool, the way they built this all out and the way that they as a couple kind of created and brought this project to fruition.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I definitely agree. I think a matte tuck would have definitely complemented a lot more. I get an Afghan vibe.
All right.
Like kind of like my grandmother used to make those old Afghans that are just cozy and those colors.
Or even looking at the monotone back design on the tuck, it almost kind of looks like a doily. Yeah, which I dig it though. I think it's
a yellow doily.
Yeah, but it's like so awesome. They really did such a great job with it. And the colors they chose just pop, which I never would have thought if someone was like, oh, I'm going to pick like lemonade yellow, teal, and red. They would never be colors I would think to put together, but they work so well on this.
Yeah, I mean, I was down for this deck from the get-go for sure.
Absolutely. Definitely a great deck. Definitely some great 3 underrated decks this week. I think those are decks that anyone who hasn't had a chance to pick them up yet should check them out. And while we're at it here, of course, it's everyone's favorite part of the episode, the comment shout out. This week's comment shout out goes out to Fenfool. You can check out their comment right below and make sure to drop a comment of your own on this video, letting us know what your favorite deck you picked up this week is. You may just be next week's comment winner.
Peace.